Most of you have probably heard of Central Park, a large urban park situated right in the center of Manhattan. Surrounded by tall skyscrapers, busy streets, and millions of people, Central Park is like a natural sanctuary within Manhattan, a place where people come to relax, play, and spend some quality time, without ever leaving the city. The origins of Central Park date back to the 1850s, a time when New York City was experiencing rapid growth and industrialization. The city's grid system, which was rolled out in 1811, included plans for a number of small open spaces, but nothing close to the scale of Central Park that exists now. The city's few open spaces, mostly private or poorly maintained, were insufficient for the rapidly expanding population. Inspired by the landscaped gardens and parks of Europe, influential writers, landscape reformers, and members of the city's elite began advocating for a large public park that would offer people within the city a retreat from noise, pollution, and overcrowding. In response to this, in July 1853, the New York State Legislature passed a law that authorized the city of New York to acquire more than 750 acres of land in central Manhattan for the creation of an urban park that would become Central Park. This land stretched between 59th Street and 106th Street, and from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue. The law allowed the city to acquire the land through eminent domain, meaning that existing residents, many of whom were poor or part of marginalized communities, would be forced to leave, often with little compensation. At the time, the land that was to be acquired through eminent domain was far from empty. It was rugged, swampy, and inhabited by several communities, most notably the Seneca Village, a predominantly African-American settlement. The area also contained churches, schools, and cemeteries. These communities were displaced to make way for the park, a process that remains a controversial chapter in its history. The acquisition of land in 1853 was only the first step. Following the official acquisition and the establishment of the Central Park Commission, the city launched a design competition for the park in 1857. In total, 33 entries were submitted. Many of them were rigid, overly formal, or focused heavily on architecture rather than landscape. The winning proposal, called the Greensward Plan, was submitted by landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted and British architect Calvert Vaux. The Greensward Plan stood out for its naturalistic, flowing design. Rather than simply carving out a formal, geometric park, the designers aimed for a landscape that seemed natural, featuring meandering paths, picturesque bodies of water, rugged terrains, and open meadows. Olmsted and Vaux also cleverly integrated transverse roads in their design, which were four sunken roadways that allowed crosstown traffic to pass through the park without interrupting the park experience. The construction of the park began in 1858. More than 20,000 workers transformed the landscape by moving nearly 5 million cubic yards of earth, draining swamps, blasting through massive bedrock formations with gunpowder, and importing fertile soil, trees, and shrubs from across the country. Over 36 unique bridges and arches were built, each with its own architectural style. A unique system of transverse roads were also created to allow crosstown traffic to pass under the park, preserving the serenity of the interior landscape. The first section of the park, near 59th Street, was opened to the public in 1859, but construction continued for nearly 2 decades. By 1863, many major elements like the Ramble, the lake, and the mall were completed. However, the full park wasn't finished until 1876, when the northernmost sections were completed. Despite challenges like budget overruns and political interference, the final result was hailed as a triumph of landscape architecture, making Central Park the first major landscaped public park in the United States, and a model for city parks around the world. The park was built at a cost of roughly $14 million, a significant increase from the project's original $5 million budget. Spanning over 843 acres or 3.41 square kilometers, Central Park occupies a central position within the Manhattan street grid, and stretches from the 59th Street in the south, all the way up to 110th Street in the north, covering over 50 city blocks. On the east side, it borders the 5th Avenue, while on the west, it runs along the Central Park West. The park measures about 4 kilometers in length and 800 meters in width. It is carefully landscaped with a mix of open meadows, wooded areas, scenic water bodies, walking trails, and recreational spaces. The park contains 9 major water bodies, 3 main woodland areas, several lawns and open meadows and roughly 36 bridges and arches. We have explained about the various features of Central Park, in depth, in one of our other videos, so please do check that out.